Okay, today we're going to paint billowy clouds, and we want our paper very wet, 100% cotton because it holds the water longer and your paint will get put through the weaving of the fibers better. You could use cold or rough, and I have tilted my paper 20%. I'm going to use the medium hockey brush, wet, fresh paint on the tips of the brush. The first strokes will be with cerulean blue cobalt, or you could use cobalt blue. And then I've also mixed an 80% ultramarine mix with a 20% permanent alizarin crimson mix, so they're all ready. I've provided here some sample of the colors. This is wet on dry of the cerulean blue chromium, and then a wet on wet mix, and then a wet on dry of the ultramarine and permanent alizarin crimson, and then a wet on wet. If your colors do not move when you put them on your wet and wet paper, your paper is not wet enough. You need to re-wet your paper. So stop and re-wet your paper if your colors aren't moving. And here we go. I'm going to make sure that this is nice and wet. I actually turn my brush over a couple times because there's always more water on each side. Checking. You want it almost puddly. So make sure you get that nice and wet. I think this is my 5th time going over it. Okay, so with our first, we're going with the cobalt or the cerulean blue cobalt, and I'm going to make sure I'm holding my brush at an angle to the flat of the paper, so more like this. And then I'm going to make curved strokes with my hand, so my hand is going like this as I hold the brush. And after 2 to 4 curved strokes, I create a little stripe. Try to create a straight line with the tips of the brush. So checking, I do have a little puddling on the bottom. So a dry, clean brush will pick that up nicely for you. Just turning that brush over, picking up a little more water. Okay, so now I'm actually going to put a little water in the belly of my cerulean blue chromium. It has gotten a little dry because it's been waiting for me to do something. Okay, here we go. Angle. I'm going to work in the middle here. 1. See, it's a little dry up there. 2, 3. And then just for the sake of going right along, I'm going to go right into my ultramarine permanent alizarin, and I want these to blend together. I'm going to leave some wet areas. Now you can see that I don't have enough color on my ultramarine and permanent alizarin crimson, so I just put in some more. And this is more or less what you really want to see. This is fine, but that's how wet you want your paper. You want the color to be moving into spidery elements. If you've had problems with this in the past, I suggest strongly that you practice on the same paper you're going to use for your painting to see how wet it needs to be so that you get this spidery effect.